Welcome back to the Talos of Tech podcast. That's right. Mike is doing the intro for this episode. I totally forgot what episode number we're on, but I'm joined by the one and only Randy Vasquez. Unfortunately, Drew could not make it for this recording, but I mean, it seems like from his documentation, Randy, on everything that he's putting up on the internet, he's having a pretty rough week. So I think he deserves some of the rest and relaxation for at least one podcast.
Yeah, I agree. Except for Evie. He's going to have to join us for Evie tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no excuse not to tell us every single detail that maybe he didn't specify in his videos or something else. But we're on tech, so we're talking about all things tech. I'm noticing that the quality is a little bit lackluster for those that are also watching the podcast, because some of you are video watchers and I guess listen to the audio at the same time. But your quality is a little bit less, so I'm assuming you're not using the iPhone for this podcast, Randy.
No. I was like, where's my iPhone? It's right here. I am filming. Man, okay. Are you aware of what I'm doing, Mike? Are you brought up to speed with anything?
I try to keep up to speed. I know that you bought a whole nother iPad for some random reason. No clue why. Makes no sense to me, but you can justify.
Not random. It's not random. All things, even in statistics, the random anomalies, everything has a purpose. And I am filming at this. This is my final test in a workflow environment for me, for dear old Randy here. Can I do a podcast, a Talos of podcasts, exclusively on the iPad? So, worst case scenario, this is my first time doing this with StreamYard, because I didn't know until the moment you sent me the link that I have to use an app for a recording or a streaming element. Excuse me. So I just downloaded the app and opened this, and the UI for the app looks completely different from what the web browser looks like. But nonetheless, I am running an app right now just to see how this is going to go. I don't like the app. I don't have the same controls as I would on the desktop. However, also with that, I can't for the life of me get only in StreamYard. For the life of me, I can't get StreamYard to acknowledge my cam link for my Sony, and only in StreamYard. I'm running a bunch of different apps, and I'm stress testing this iPad, which I will explain. We'll go into that in a second, but I'm stress testing it, and so far the only limitation I'm having is this one, doing this show, and I can't get the cam link to communicate with StreamYard. So, however, most importantly, the audio is fine. So we're not gonna worry about the audio. I got my focus right. My whole rig is set up, plugged into the iPad, and it works borderline flawlessly. So that's good. Yeah, so here's the update. This week, I bought an M-chip iPad Pro. I bought an M1 iPad Pro.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Is that the 12.9 inch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I got the 12-inch, 12.9 inch. Can we just call it 13? I mean, it's the same size. I got a 13-inch iPad Pro running M1. And
all right.
The catalyst of all this is I've been on my own channel with the Randy Nexus. I've been very critical of iPadOS, and I've done a series of videos of deep dives into iPadOS, trying to understand iPadOS. And my most popular right now, it's either me ridiculing iPadOS, or it's me conceding, saying I understand iPadOS. I'm actually going to find out this exact second. My most popular video is neither. My most popular video is John Turnus to be the next CEO of Apple, and by a lot.
Also,
It's the
that
most,
trend at the right time.
man, yeah, that's over 9,000 views, and I put that out
Over
2 months ago.
9,000?
It's over 9,000. Yeah, but the second one, the second most popular in the series, is the iPad isn't the problem. iPad OS is, and then my third popular is from 2 weeks ago. I finally understand iPad OS, and now. But Randy, you're doing this on iPad OS. I am, because I realized there was one, I wouldn't say a fatal flaw, but there's one part of my whole analysis on this whole thing that I couldn't properly articulate, and I couldn't properly just do an honest synopsis without testing an M chip iPad. And there is, I can say, I'm running an iPad right now. I'm working off of an iPad that's 2 generations later than my A12X iPad from 2018. So I'm using
That one's the same size, right?
It's the same size, yeah. So there's a strategic element to this as well about why I got this particular model, the M chip. First being, well, first let me say this: this iPad came out, I think, in 2021. So this is a 3-year younger variant of my actual iPad, and within those 3 years, I feel now, being in the heart of this, I actually feel like I underestimated the advancements of what 36 months could do for an iPad, which I will pontificate further. But first, allow me to say this: I got an M1 12.9-inch iPad because I'm demoing this iPad. I bought this off of Amazon. I bought this off of Amazon Renew. Okay. So I haven't gone through Apple or nothing like that. This was Amazon Renew because it gives you a 90-day run and you can return it, which I am probably 60 to 70% confident I'm going to return this thing. And I will explain that part later. If I forget, remind me. But I bought the M1 very intentionally, very strategically, because M1 has a very sentimental connection to me.
It's got one more GPU, right? That's it.
I have no idea. We don't talk about the specs like that. All I'm going to say about the M1 is that when my iMac was finally, on its last leg, and I was getting ready to leave California, right before I went to wait, did I do it at Best Buy? I did do it at Best Buy in San Diego, but then I think I went through Apple definitively for the year. I think ultimately I went through Apple, and I got a M1 MacBook Air. And I ran my whole personal channel, the Randy Vasquez channel, flawlessly for a year, doing my especially for streaming. Doing my streams was fine. I do remember. Okay, so I got the base MacBook Air, but I went through Apple because I actually increased the RAM because I knew I was going to stream, and I know how Logic behaves, and so I needed more RAM than base RAM of 8 gigs. So. I remember increasing RAM. So
doesn't change.
yeah. So I got the M1 Air, MacBook Air, and I loved that thing. That was probably my favorite MacBook I've ever used because it was so thin and it was so powerful. No fans, no nothing, and it ran everything just borderline flawlessly. 99% flawlessly.
It's a great laptop,
dude. So much so that I got my brother a couple of months, like maybe a month or 2 ago. I think 2 months ago. He bought an M1 MacBook Air that was now very cheap off of Best Buy because they're discontinued now. You can't buy an M1. So he bought it for really, really cheap. And I was like, dude, if I didn't need the storage config, like I think there's a different way in my life now. I could have reconfigured the MacBook Air to fit my life today. No experiments or trials or demos. All that to the side. I think a MacBook Air could still work with me today if I would have spec'd it out right, knowing what I know now about the M chips. But
Mhm.
I confidently told my brother like that was a good laptop to get, and so he did. And it's the cheapest M chip MacBook that you could get. So everybody won there. So after that, I got an M1 Pro with the MacBook Pro, and that's my current Mac now. And I obviously love that thing. But now I also started to realize that I might have future-proofed it a little too much. There's too much headspace of stuff that I realize now of how I operate and how I work off of things that it's not actually being used this way. The MacBook Pro, as it is right now, I might have been a little overkill. I do not regret. I'll never regret upping the RAM size. I will always be comfortable with that. But other variables like the SSD and things of that nature, maybe I was a little heavy footed on with really.
Took a page out of Drew's book.
I didn't do 8 gigs, man. That was way too much. But 4 is also. I'm not even a terabyte in since it's been 3 years, almost 3 years. This year will be 3 years since the MacBook Pro M1 Pro came out, and I'm not even a terabyte in. And I'm throwing things at this dude. Like I'm like video and audio productions equivalent. I'm just throwing it at this thing.
You're throwing
And
2 or 3 channels worth of stuff at it, pretty
yeah,
much.
and I'm not even a full terabyte in. Not even close. But I will also admit that, and here's part of my understanding of how my workflow is that I don't shy away from external SSDs like this one. I've had this one for as long as I've had my that MacBook Air I was telling you about, the M1 MacBook Air. So this thing has
I have
been
the
with
same
me,
one.
dude. I love this thing. I heck yeah, I love this thing. So okay, all that to tell you in context that the M series M1 was important to me in 2021. I was grateful for it. I loved it. That's my favorite era so far of all things Apple in the computing element of the company. So I had this thought. Maybe after it was after Dub Dub. I had this thought when I posted the I finally understand the iPad OS video that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought was an M1 iPad Pro theoretically would have no issues the same way the MacBook Pro didn't have any issues. If anything, it would have even less issues of it's almost non-existent because the software is more limited. Theoretically, right? Like that makes sense to me that I would say if I didn't have any issues running Mac OS off of an M1, I sure as heck shouldn't have any issues running iPad OS off of an M1.
Mm-hmm.
And all these comments that I was getting over my series of iPad, specifically
Slander.
iPad OS. I mean, people were it's almost cultish, and I'm like, I don't like the hive mind mentality. I just don't care for it. But I also acknowledged one thing that somebody had said to me, and it was kind of being rent free in my head, and it was that like he was basically saying like you should try it, like you're crapping on it, but who are you to say that without trying it?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're right. So the final piece of the backstory of all this is the reason why I went with an M1 over an M2 or an M4 is strictly because I know that I'm demoing it. I don't want to go out and buy another brand new Apple Pencil. I like how the center stage just adjusted. Why you? This is I have no. This is something I can't control in StreamYard, by the way, the center stage. But I did not want to buy a new Apple Pencil for the M4, and I didn't want to buy a new keyboard. I don't want to drop about around $300 to $500 worth of accessories if I know I'm not keeping it. This keyboard works just fine. The Magic Keyboard, the Apple Pencil works just fine. And I could have done an M2, but I kind of want to further prove my point that using an M1, which if someone was interested in buying an M1 this year, significantly cheaper. I paid $680, I think. I paid $680 for the iPad for 256 gigs of storage. So it's not the base model storage, and this is my home now for the next month minimum. I might not keep it the whole 90 days. Well, I don't know. But yeah, this is my workflow. I am behaving and pretending that I don't have another computer. And so I need to put my own bias to the side because one thing I acknowledge is that, you know what? Maybe me being a millennial and growing up on the GUI, computing over the touch interface, uh, like what would it look like if I was to start quote unquote brand new today? How could I navigate this? Could I navigate this?
Hmm.
And the only way I can be fair about it is I had to shut down my MacBook Pro. And so now it's off to the corner on my windowsill here as a good paperweight.
Why is it on the windowsill?
Uh, I think that's a genuine question, so I'm going to give you a genuine answer. I'm wiping down my desk. I'm cleaning things. I'm kind of reorganizing, so I just put it off to the side, and then life. I haven't moved it, and so it's been there for the whole day today. But it's not going to stay there. It's just there now. It's good. It's good decor. It's with my broken down iPhone 5S and all my little collection of stuff. It's right over there. So there you go. So now I'm gonna ask you a question or I'm gonna answer a question you haven't asked me yet.
All right.
Since we're diving deep into this, I've been monologuing for almost 15 minutes. I'm just gonna keep going. To observe iPad OS and all its updates from a distance running an older an older hardware is completely different than actually utilizing the tools that are meant for it today. And now I am currently at this. I'm almost at a fork in the road where I'm thinking like I think I was too hard on iPad OS.
Interesting.
I must be, dude. I'm literally working. This is side money for me right here, and it's working just fine. I was able to upload podcasts to Spreaker flawlessly after exporting through LumaFusion. I'm not doing Final Cut mainly because I wouldn't do it if I actually had this computer. I would just use Luma. Logic, I'll entertain maybe next week or something. I don't know, but I'm able to edit fine because now I can connect the Thunderbolt into my studio display, which that once it becomes its own extension of a display, and I can just work off the studio display. I forget I'm using iPad OS sometimes. And I mean that sincerely. I forget. There are times when it's time to do the work part. Oh no, this is iPad OS, and I can see and what I now understand what I mean by that is instead of having a one-step process, it's now 3 steps. If it takes me 3 steps on Mac, it might take me 5 steps. So there's a few extra steps. Is it annoying? Yeah, slightly it is. I'm like, and you'll get used to it. But is it doable? 100%. I'm singing a different tune. I'm understanding.
Yeah, it might be doable, but do you really want to keep on taking 3 more steps than you have to for a task?
Well, it depends on the task. For this, we do our podcast once a week. I mean, the steps part is not the issue. What's the actual issue is it not communicating with my cam link. That's an issue. Like I want to use that. I miss continuity cam as a backup. There's other issues that I have. I don't like that some websites are restricted because it's running the iOS version like this. I had to download the app for streaming because this is considered streaming right now. However, I just downloaded today. I haven't made a video or nothing. I'm saying this for the first time. Today I downloaded an application from the App Store that is an OBS alternative. And my hour, if that, 30 minutes with the app, I'm immediately going like, oh, I don't need OBS. I don't use OBS to its full potential with what it can do. I just use it to record. I use it to synchronize my audio and my video. That's what I use OBS for.
Right.
This is that in a maybe even cleaner format. There's an app for everything where I'm just like, whoa, okay. So when it comes to my production on my own throughout the week, those extra steps, they're not really. I'm having a realization that I have these extra steps because I haven't optimized my studio to actually be the most efficient, which is an interesting stress tester I have put onto myself. What I mean by that, and here's an applicable example for you and me, we would have normally have recorded this in OBS, or both of our stuff in OBS, and one of us sends the file to the other, and then you edit it and all that. And those are all these extra steps. Whereas like now we just have this. We just have this. Everything's already synchronized. You can go in and then add. You can add your intro outro clips. Done. Strip the audio. Done. And that you could do in LumaFusion just as flawlessly as in Final Cut, or shoot, I would say maybe even iMovie could do that.
Yeah.
So that's not like app exclusive. But we now have found during this production for this show, we have found a more simplified way. Oh, now it doesn't want to do it.
Every time you were nodding up or down, for those that are wondering what's going on in the audio portion, Randy would move his head, or I guess tilt his head up or down, and the camera would follow up or down, which was very interesting. Yet his head wasn't really translating much in the space. It was just rotating.
I can't move it now. It knows it's on the spot. Whatever. Okay. Well, either way. See, this is something that you would have had an issue with if we just did OBS recordings and then you had to center our thing. But now it's just auto centering.
We wouldn't be doing this though.
Yeah.
In fact, since it's two of us, it'd be easy just to slap us. I mean, the way that I typically edit is either I do something like what we've got right now, where it's split down the middle, zoomed in a little bit on our feeds. But what you could also do is just almost do tiles, just like kind of like the Windows tiles. Put one of us in the upper left, one of us in the lower right, and then content on the upper right or lower left, or put us both on one side. It doesn't matter. I guess one question I do have is, have you found the iPad to heat up a lot more, or at least have you ran into any issues where it's actually failed either in recording or editing?
No overheating, no failure. I did have a bug when it was connected to the studio display. It closed out. It closed out the YouTube app for some reason. It just did it. That's literally the only thing.
Nothing else closed down, or was that the main app that you had open at the time?
No, I'm using Stage Manager. Like Stage Manager on the studio display makes 100% sense. I totally get Stage Manager now for iPad or iPad OS, and then you have like such a big screen real estate. Stage Manager makes sense as the screen real estate when you want to have those multiple windows, and that's when it feels like I'm not using iPad OS anymore.
Sure.
Stage Manager makes no sense on this screen or on the MacBook like native screen. That it's too small of a screen. It makes no sense to me. But actually, that's a good point that you didn't even ask me. But I'm taking notes about for my long term review of it, and so I have to talk about my muscle reactions, and I have to like things I wish that the iPad could do, and that right there. Stage Manager, I got to write that down really quickly. Stage Manager is not like having multiple windows. The way you have to minimize things and access them, that's like that. There's 2 to 3 steps in that when it could just be one. That's an annoyance. But it's like, oh, that's part of the characteristic of iPad OS. But
it's the language, how you navigate. So it makes total sense when you've got a big screen that you're not actually touching, but then the smaller screen that you are interacting with, for those to be married in that way, but your only interface is through the tablet or through the keyboard. Yeah. Makes sense.
I can say that going back to the efficiency thing, using iPad OS has taught me how I can make Mac OS more efficient for me. And one thing that I'm now strongly considering is actually getting just a lav mic and connecting it to my Sony. And so when I record, the audio is automatically recorded onto that SD card from there instead of having to synchronize it, because that's a step that's annoying. Right now, using this, you're hearing my audio in mono, which is great, but some applications, it makes it stereo, and that's because that's how my preamp is actually behaving, which means you only get like the left channel of the audio coming through, which is annoying. And so if I'm going to record 4K, if I wanted to do a 4K video, as does Drew and as does many other tech tubers, OBS is not my answer. OBS would still make things kind of look like how I look right now on this stream, pixelated, more pixelated than what the native sensor can give me. And I learned that once I started filming through my SD card again recently. I'm like, oh, this is clarity. An aggravation I have with this, it took me 3 hours to upload a video to YouTube, and I've never had that issue on Mac, so I don't know what that was about. That was annoying. I still don't. I'm going to try to replicate that again to see why it's doing that. So I don't like that, but I like the end result on YouTube. The clearest image I've ever had on my Randy Nexus channel is because of the 4K. I look great on that thing. I'm like, dang, that's clarity. So now it makes me want to record my videos in 4K, but then I kind of want to bypass this whole syncing of the audio thing, and I would just get a lav mic and use that and have that connected right into my Sony. So it makes me think like that. That's what I mean, Mike. It makes me think about streamlining my actual production, not when I'm doing a challenge or an experiment, but how I actually operate my workflow. It makes me now realize that it's not the most efficient. It's just the one that I'm most comfortable with. So now I'm going to probably re-engineer some things on my end. And I'm sure I might come across something like that if I am to get Logic Pro for the iPad, and I'll write a song from scratch. I'll do a piano, I'll do synth, I'll do the whole electronics. Maybe I'll even do vocals on it. I don't really know yet, but I'm having fun stress testing this thing because I keep getting taken back about how wrong I was about certain elements of iPad OS. I've called it baby OS, and maybe I'm being a bit of a bully, and I don't know if it is baby OS. I don't think it's as broken, even in the file management area, as I initially thought, just on how seamless maybe I'm moving files around.
Well,
I
you're
don't know.
using it as your dedicated device, and so you've learned the language of it, and so that's how you're navigating around it. Is you've changed the way that you interact with what a quote unquote computer is, to reference the old iPad commercial. So
Yeah.
to force yourself to learn that new way of life, of course, things are going to be feeling a little bit more intuitive after some time because you've gotten used to that. Is it actually an efficient use of being able to go into the Files app or whatever iPad has and then trying to grab out whatever you need in that convoluted folder, at least that I have, and being able to output it to whatever software that you're using to edit or compile or anything else, analyze or make a thumbnail, might be a little bit less intuitive than you might think, or at least a lot less quicker or efficient than what might be done on a Mac. So I feel like that's maybe a caveat that you might need to consider as well in your usage, is that you've dialed your language to a different device. And like you said,
But I
the
didn't
time that it takes.
compromise. So I'm not compromising on anything. And what I mean by that is I made my Randy Nexus assets, intros and outros for both my videos and my podcast, and background music and all that stuff. I consolidated all that stuff. I made a folder. And like I need this folder to have the DNA of that channel. So I made that. And I did do what you just said. I dragged all these exported lossless videos that can have like the overlays and stuff like that. I put that into Luma, and it's as easy as a drag and drop. Here's another one of those things about the reprogramming of the brain, though. We think, especially because I mapped my keyboard, this keyboard and mouse, I mapped it to the iPad now. I unpaired it to the MacBook. When using a mouse, you instinctually click and drag when you want to highlight multiple files, and then you grab it and you move it, right? Like that's just an instinctual thing. You can't do that on an iPad because the iPad is touch first. And I had to remember that. So here's the thing where instead of just clicking, highlighting, then drag and drop, which you can do on the timeline for Luma. That's the only place I've seen the highlighting happen, but only I mean, I guess notes counts, but when I'm talking about moving files on the timeline of Luma Fusion, you can highlight, drag and drop, which is awesome. But on the system itself, you can't highlight multiple files and folders and things and then move them all at once. That 2 to 3 step process is you have to go to the top right, click select, and then tap all those things, and then click it again to move. Or then actually after you select it, then you can drag them all at once. But at that point, I just click move, and then I move it to its allocated folder of sorts. Unless it's going to a different application like Luma Fusion, then I just drag and drop, which it does fine. So I'm not compromising on how I would run the production, but I am being honest in navigating the OS. I have to do one Talos of Tech and EV podcast in this format to say, yes, it can be done, and it can be done well, because the only thing that matters is the audio. So if we could do that, and I know now I can get this uploaded to Spreaker just fine and YouTube just fine, then what are we really? We're splitting hairs about what the operating system can do. That's what I'm starting to understand. Now we're just nitpicking about, yeah, but now you can't have, like, yes, there are certain things that I'm trying to sideline my bias about Mac OS because I'm a Mac guy. I love Mac. But that me loving Mac does not take away the actual capabilities of what iPad OS can do.
Agreed.
I don't know if I could do what you're doing right now, though, as the host. I don't know if I can host. Literally, I'm not sure I can. I don't know. But also, to be fair, I haven't hosted yet. So I'm treating this as if it was another day of the week. I wouldn't be the one hosting. So
sure. And that's fine. That means you get to play with a whole bunch of different ways of setting up your end of the podcast, in which in this case, since we're using StreamYard, it's so much easier just to send you a link, you tap on it, there, now you're in, and you can do that. I guess apparently I didn't know this, on any device. You don't have to be on a computer, in which it's obvious now. You could do it on a phone.
You can,
but you can also do it on an iPad. So, of course. But yeah, all the other tools such as setting up the layouts or sharing a screen or having other screens that you want to reference on the side and or monitoring, I don't know, anything else, or even what Drew does, in which I'm still trying to get set up, is sound bites and all that, sound effects. I don't even know if you could do that on the iPad as easily. It seems like you having like a nice little pop-up menu. I forget. I think it's on Shaper 3D or some other apps that are either dedicated to Apple or other things. It reminds me of like the old iPods where it had the button on the screen that brought up a menu and all that.
Yes.
Having that on the StreamYard app for iPads sounds like a really great idea, or at least iPhones as well, since it seems like they can't put them in the same thing as, oh, it's just an iPhone, but scaled up iPad. But having that nice little menu button positioned wherever you want on the app interface would be a great idea. So that way you can tap it and immediately it gets to sound effects or to switch screen or mirror screen or focus on me or something else.
Right.
Would be a nice idea for that.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely room for a lot of improvement on the iPad, but I think being in the weeds of it, you know, the forest through the trees, that whole analogy, I think that's what makes iPad more exciting, is identifying like, oh, this is where it can improve. This is where it can improve. Because I would feel the developers for those applications, because now we're talking about things that are outside of the system itself, Now this is a developer thing. This ecosystem only works because of third-party developers, not
Mhm.
because of what you can do natively on the OS. Whereas Mac, it's all about the OS. There's just .com that crap, right? And then there you go. There's a there's a security blanket I like about having just, having to worry about the operating system and not the developers. But
Yeah.
there's something exciting about knowing that developers can do these great things. That I found this app that's a genuine OBS replacement, no ads, no have to set up an account or any of those other stuff you would expect an application to do, or a freemium version. Like, it is a genuine application in an authorized app store that does the exact same thing as OBS for how we would use OBS. And I'm like, okay, I would have never known that or even thought about it had I not forced myself to get creative. So
Mhm.
I have to temper my um, my routine, my habits, my
Yeah.
all that stuff. I hate I hate that the cam link doesn't work for this though. I'm going to, between now and tomorrow when we do EV, I'm going to try to find a way, see if I can fix it, because I don't. On paper, theoretically, it should work just fine, um, because I can get that to work for other applications. This is just another application, so I'm going to do
Sure.
some research. But this is part of the fun. Is me genuinely stress testing. I'm not copying out. I'm not going to just take notes on the iPad and then go to my MacBook to open up Final Cut and start editing. I'm not going to do it. I almost like, my gut reaction was to go to the MacBook to start uploading things to YouTube and Spreaker.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, wait a minute. Can I just .com it? And once I realized I could on iPad OS and get to the full YouTube Studio app and get to the full Spreaker website, um, at that point I was like, okay, like, done. We're not gonna do any corner cutting here.
Mhm.
So I kind of feel like
It's
I need to like download Logic Pro and give that an honest try. I kind of feel like I the integrity is telling me I need to do that.
sure. I see a lot of this experience that you are going through right now somewhat similar to what Drew has done in the past with either reviewing new products from Apple or from Google or anyone else, or even just challenging himself to try something new and different, like downgrading his phone and seeing how that goes. But in your case, you're running your whole channel off of it and really pushing the limits to see how much can you do on an iPad to prove yourself wrong at the end of the day. That there is. And it's a very neat story that you're, or I guess narrative that you're painting. And every single day, it seems I catch myself thinking, why the heck did Randy buy another? He's got 3 different generations of iPads in his house now. This is ridiculous. Like, what is he thinking? But then I also think, well, one, this is your business. 2, it's none of mine. 3, it's actually an interesting thought. And even though that's been done before, trying to modernize it, but still through the lenses of a somewhat older chip, is a great challenge and a great test, and even a great not script, but pretty much theorem or proof that yes, you can do a lot with these things, even if it's a really old Kindle or something like that. You can do a lot with this technology that we got. So why do you have to buy the newest thing? Why do you have to buy a Mac? You don't
It's
have to.
not, and not just that. It's a matter of like, um the twofold of it is, I see so many people defending it kind of like a religion. I'm like, what am I not seeing that you're seeing? And then I had concluded, it's like, it's because I don't have an M series chip. That's the only difference. My iPad mini, not an M chip. It doesn't do the same functionalities as what this device can. So
Mhm.
the only way I could fully articulate and defend every corner of my stance about iPad OS for pro iPad OS or con iPad OS was to take the opposition. I have to play devil's advocate. I have to take the opposition to be to to be as articulate as possible about my stances. It's the only way I can trust myself. Part of me is trying to shake that imposter syndrome about that I always have being in the public eye of things. It's the only way I could have confidence in what I say and not feel like I have that imposter syndrome happening. Two, the other thing was that even though something like this has been done before, it hasn't been done by someone like me. And what I mean by that is someone who's not just YouTubing, but I'm podcasting, I'm music producing. I'm in the middle of like the actual production of an album. I have people that I collaborate with. No one else has told my story or even a story that's parallel to mine. So I'm approaching it from a very creative point of view, one that I haven't seen before. I'm not talking about, yes, today we got Logic Pro. We're going to try out Logic Pro. Oh, yep, that's Logic Pro. I mean, I'm going to write a song. I just talked myself into it. I already know I'm going to do it now. I'm going to write a full song, a complete song on the iPad in Logic. And can I export a master of it? Can I master a song in Logic? That's an important step. That's arguably the most important step. Can I master a song in Logic? Can I then export that file to on-device file system in the Files app? And then can I take that file, that WAV file, and upload it to DistroKid for distribution? And can I get something that I created completely 100% on the iPad? Can I get that to the end result of Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and all those? If I could do that, and I document maybe a part of that process, if I could do that while also doing my channel, while also doing podcasting, while also doing collaborative podcasting, then literally the iPad can do it all from my point of view. Because my point of view is coming from a creative stance. It can already do it all from light computing, from social media, from web browsing. We've known that, but that's not the space that we operate in. I'm not. I know my lane. I'm no MKBHD. I'm no whoever. I know the lane that our side of the tech field is in. And for like a even bigger throwback, Drew's, when he first started doing Talos of Tech, was done off of the first original iPad Pro. He ran his channel off of that, which was cumbersome and annoying, but he got it done. And then he hotspotted his Verizon phone so he can get data. And then he uploaded his videos to YouTube, and that's how he did it for a while. So he doesn't need to do this challenge. I mean, he lived it. He grew his channel off of it. But at the same time, that was pre, 2007. That's pre, or 2008. Like that's pre iPhone 10. So much has changed, and I know Drew's story because I had lived Drew's story in my own way while that was happening, and then I just never went back to it. It's been 6 years since I bought an iPad Pro because I bought it in 2018. 6 years is ancient time in tech world, right? Like by then you're that's a geriatric at that point. You're done. You're on your way out. So my iPad, I didn't even realize this, but my iPad is like my actual iPad Pro, the 2018 one, is maybe a heartbeat away from being on hospice care, and then it's time to go. Like I now see it can do all the mediocre basic stuff just fine, but it could have never done what we're doing right now. And I'm having this realization, like, oh, my iPad's old. So what I realized, like, I got an old iPad, and that's a testament to how great the iPad hardware is, and maybe the software felt like it was falling behind. But then once I actually get something that's more modern, the software doesn't feel as broken as I initially thought. You just have to re-engineer your processing. You can't, it's not a mouse and keyboard. It behaves as a touch interface first. And the fact that we compare our mouse and keyboard is what blurs those lines, but it was never meant to be. You don't need to have a complete set to have the complete experience. You can just have the iPad and have the whole experience, and it would behave exactly the same. Granted, with some caveats and workarounds as well. Everything has a caveat and a workaround. But if we could do this and get a paycheck out of it, then what am I actually complaining about with iPad? It's not more streamlined. Okay, that's a fair criticism. But I was over here thinking that like this thing is a joke. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's shutting me up.
Yeah, putting money where the mouth is really does do wonders, doesn't it?
It's different when you put your own money up front and you're like, ooh, okay. This is real
Well,
now.
then actually physically and wholeheartedly challenging yourself to committing to it rather than just, trying it out, like you said, for a couple minutes and back to the Mac to do the rest of the uploading and editing and all that. And then you kind of get a sour taste in the mouth at the end of the day of this thing doesn't really do much, but really forcing yourself to see how far the device can go really proves a lot of the points that a lot of these people make, which is it can do more. You just got to push it a little bit more and push yourself a little bit more.
Wasn't it you who shared the screen of showing my little charts of where and then in the future where I would want it to be? And it was a 40-40-20 split of 40% iPhone, 40% tablet, 20% Mac is what I would like to be. I want to get close to that future that I imagine my tech in my life to be, where I let go of the phone more and I put more time emphasized on the iPad, while also I have a very new outlook that I didn't first realize when I did my iPad OS and understanding video. I think I can do my MacBook even less if I can edit just fine on here, or let's see how audio production works. I can edit quicker on Final Cut. I can move quicker on Mac OS. But who's to say my next computer isn't going to be an iMac or a Mac Studio, or maybe even a Mac Mini, something that's now stationary, and that's my, what I keep calling my server. That's my foundation of everything, and then everything else is more mobile. Because I only got the MacBook because I knew I was be moving around in 2021. I was moving coast to coast, and I knew my time in Virginia wasn't forever. So then it's like, okay, now that I'm settled, I don't necessarily need a MacBook. I like one, but I don't need it. So maybe a Mac Studio or a Mac Mini or an iMac or whatever might be on the horizon. And if that's the case, then I can now be more comfortable knowing that maybe if I do get another iPad Pro, like that sucker can be what I used to have the MacBook be for me. For me, Drew, like he streams, he does his YouTube member streams, he does all that stuff. Like there are things that he does more intricately for his channels than I do with mine. So for him, I still don't think this would work for him because he has a certain, I don't want to say obligation, but he has a certain routine that he has with his channel members and Patreons and whatever that makes him work more efficiently through macOS. So if he was here, I know that I'm sure he would say he could not use iPadOS for all that stuff as well. And I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But that ain't me, Chief.
Well, his language is all about efficiency, right? And so efficiency and pretty much focusing on time efficiency. He wants to get things done in a lightning flash, pretty much. So to constrain it to the speeds of iPad, where you have to do a few more steps to do the same thing on a Mac, that's something that he doesn't want to deal with. Even when he edits, I think you and I have both seen him when he edits. He's going by quicker than either of us could probably ever edit if we were given the same task. But it's because he's got so dialed into how to output a product that quickly with decent quality, but without having to just sit there and slog around trying to tinker with all the different settings and all the different menus that you have to go through. With the Mac, there's a lot more streamlined tools because it has a little bit more input to deal with.
Yeah, he his editing. I don't know if you know this, but I used for a short period of time. I was his editor on his tech videos. I was his interim editor, and I had edited a few of his videos for his tech channel. And this is back when he had his actual like studio office building that he worked out of. And one time I remember him and he was sitting next to me while I was editing his video, and because I was physically there on site, he was working on other stuff. And I remember him and I just both, misery loves company, and him and I were bonded very quickly over how much we hate editing and how quickly we try to move through editing. And he's always says this now, that his disdain for editing is why he's so good at it and he moves as quickly as he does, because like editing freaking sucks. It just, at the end of the day, like, I don't like editing. That's my least favorite part of anything. Drew agrees. Not to just be like, I just want to be the visionary, let me just hit record and then go, but like I would much rather allocate time to make the best, the perfect, whatever, the most clickbaity thumbnail, whatever it may be. I would rather do that before I have to edit something in a YouTube video format, which I find humor in that, like that disdain. It never goes away. I am kicking myself when I'm in LumaFusion because I know it's taking a little bit longer. Maybe the way I talk myself out of it or talk myself down from it is that I tell myself that, well, I'm not editing or I'm not uploading every single day. And the stuff if I am uploading, it's way easier just to record a podcast and then just take that and upload than it is to go through and like click and edit and play. I hate doing that. So I find myself always just maybe in the back of my mind. I understand so hard when Drew said, and he's not the one who's ever said this, but Drew has said, like, if there is an AI feature that can let you just watch how I edit, now you edit the rest of my videos. I get that. Like, even if it means I have to sit at my computer for that same amount of time, but it's the one editing it, I would rather do that because it is like death by PowerPoint equivalent. That the whole is the most mundane, mind-numbing task. It doesn't. I hate that. And I don't think Final Cut on iPad would fix it either. I think there's going to be a step-by-step process of very similar to of what LumaFusion is. But I suck it up, buttercup. Like what, you can't complain about a dream job. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather do this than anything else. And at the end of the day, like I care about the quality of my product. So knowing that I care about like I'm putting my name on this, caring about the quality of your product, it doesn't matter how long it takes. If it means I got to take a little bit longer, then I don't get the video up in 3 hours. I get it up in 5. Then it is what it is. Like, woe is me. As long as I know my information's good, as long as I know the content's good, the information's good, that motivates me to get through the whole editing part. But like, I will tell you right from the soul here, iPadOS isn't going to fix this problem for me. Like I miss Final Cut on Mac. I miss it. But there is a scenario where if I need to edit on the go, then yeah, I can use iPad. Shoot, I was using my phone for Apple Fitness last year. I was using that exclusively, all shot on iPhone, edited on iPhone, uploaded on iPhone. That was Stressful. That was just stressful. But I did it and I did it daily and I got over it. So whatever. I mean, that's such a niche thing. At the end of the day, are you having fun in the process?
Yeah.
I feel like the iPad gives me some fun. Just something campy about it, I feel like. Something
Well, I
I
think a
don't
good
know.
way to put it is I think both you and Drew have said the same thing to spruce up your life a little bit more instead of wanting a new phone. Change your wallpaper.
Yeah.
Change the icons in your home screen, change them around, change the pattern, change the widgets. I did that recently and it felt nice. It's like, oh, okay, cool. This is a little bit more focused towards less clinging to phone person and more of here's the tools that you need, like the photo app, the camera app, the Tesla app, and that's pretty much it for a lot of my normal daily use cases. But in the
Yeah.
case of you, it's do you want to keep on being in the same slog of being on your MacBook Pro and trying to figure out a bunch of video ideas and then continuing with the same notion and mindset of what things are? Or do you want to try a new experience and mix things up a little bit?
So this is my I'm trying not to have you reflect on that. There you go. So here's my exclusive, like I try to keep my home screen as minimal as possible. Oh, thanks, Mike. So this is I have a calendar with my weather app, and that's the only two. I got
That's a
my
tiny widget.
iCloud. Yeah, I got my iCloud that's right here, and then what's going on right here, and boom. That's literally it. I got the woo, those are numbers. Don't look good though. No, it's fine. I'm just joking. But when you go to the app drawer,
Mhm.
like then it's all kind of there. But I tell you that like I I I change my wallpaper all the time. I take off my case every other week, so it feels like I have a new phone.
Sure.
I'll be caseless for about 5 6 days. Then I put the case on for 5 or 6 days, and it scratches that itch of like I need something new like now.
Mhm.
And I bought the iPad Pro out of am I bored? Was it from the Grinch? Am I just eating because I'm bored? Like that's what it
Yeah.
felt like. But no, it was that I was just reviewing my channel, and it was a matter of principled. Uh, if I'm taking a stance, I looked at every angle and point of view except in the shoes of the user. So that was it. That's the driving force of
A
it.
dedicated user, to be fair.
To be
Because you were a
fair,
user, you've got 2 iPads in your house already before you got that
that I
M1.
use regularly, but
Yeah.
as again, from the stance of a content creator, why
Mhm.
are people coming at me when I'm telling the truth about Mac OS and how optimized it is? Like this is this is not a debate, but you're making one. Why? Why is that the case? And so I was like, all right, I'll be you. I'll defend your stance. So then I can pick it apart later if need be. But as I'm being fair, I was a little harsh on some stuff. And I acknowledge
No.
that. A little bit. Just a
Randy
little
being
bit.
harsh on something doesn't sound right. Speaking of being harsh on things, something that I wanted to cover in this podcast as well, since it's uh, something in the tech field that was unveiled recently, but specifically it being Samsung having their event
Yeah.
and finally unveiling a couple things that I was looking forward to and other things that were a little bit strange. So I thought we'd dedicate the last bit of this podcast to talking about one, the hype that I have for the Galaxy Ring, and then the disappointing changes that have been made to things like the Galaxy Watch 7 and
That's an
Ultra.
Apple Watch. That's an
Yeah.
Apple Watch.
I mean, even the tiles that they have here are very similar to what Apple does. And I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of these infographics, but they seem very Apple-like from what we're used to. But I wanted to get your opinion. I don't know if you watched the event, the Galaxy Unpacked event. I did, and it was a little bit weird, a little bit cringy at times, but and also a little bit of a slog. Sometimes you get this splash page, or they cover the ring, and then they pivot away from it for a while and talk about the watches, and then they finally come back to the ring later and show you, oh, actually, here's all the features, and then here's the price, which seemed a little bit disjointed.
I didn't watch the event. I just watched YouTubers talk about the event and talk about the products, which was a more better, I don't know, use of my time. I laugh at. Okay, yeah. Pick a tab and let's talk about it.
Well, to start things off a little bit positively, the Galaxy Ring is a lot better than I thought. Where it seems like a lot of these rings are subscription based, like the Aura Ring.
Right.
And by a lot, I mean it's pretty much the Aura Ring that has been its main, the main competitor in the space. But the Ring comes in at $399 base price, no subscription.
Yes,
which I think is
we talked about this. You and I did this on that Ring episode.
Yeah.
That gets me excited. If not for anything, that now other companies will take this approach. I'd rather pay a one-time payment, knowing that, like, I mean, we're both spoken for men. Can you guess what color ring I would have bought from there? But like knowing that I would wear a ring daily, every day, this being the most important accessory from a more symbolic point of view, and have utility now added to it.
Right.
That's more interesting to me than an Apple Watch, and it does the same vitals.
Well, that and a little bit more reliable because it's on a portion of your body that it could actually get better data on.
Yeah.
Versus the watch where it's having to go either on top or below your wrist, and it's not really, it's just not in a good position. But for this, they tout it with sleep tracking, energy score. Don't know what that is, and wellness tips. But sleep tracking, and then being able to swim with it without a problem, and then also choose from 9 different size options, I think is really neat. And 3 different colors in that. So there's a lot of customization with this product. But what that really gets me confused on is the charging case. 1, does it come with the charging case? I hope so.
I hope so.
2, how much does the charging case cost if it's extra? And 3, do we get anything else besides this glassy white case? Do we get something a little bit more minimalistic? Maybe it's almost like a ring case that you'd have to propose to your spouse. And I guess the
that's
fourth
funny.
it'd be pretty funny. But fourth thing as well, there's different options for size. Does that mean you have to get a different charging case, or is it kind of spring loaded to where it's set up to where you can put any ring on it and it'll be
That's a good question. I didn't even think about that. You're right. I would feel like, well, that answers the question right there, Mike. I think it comes with the ring. It's size to the ring. It doesn't look spring load. Well, actually, now that I'm looking at it closer, look at that bottom right element on the inside of it, right there. Take your mouse over it a little bit to that
right.
that concave right there. Yeah, well, not right there. A little bit more now.
Yeah.
Right there. That opening right there. Maybe that's the part that assesses it, but I feel like the rest of it doesn't move. I think it comes with the ring. I think you're paying for it. If you're dropping that type of money on it, I think you're gonna get your own little personalized plastic, early 2000s translucent case for something.
Yeah, maybe so. I think that alcove is mainly for the sensors on the.
Do you feel like what are your thoughts on the ring design itself, like the little the concaved element of the ring to prevent scratching, maybe the thickness of it, even I mean thickness of the band, not on the ring portion itself, but like I wear a thick band, for example, right? Like this is a pretty thick one. What are your thoughts on any of those 3 finishes?
I think it's a good design, and if you want something that's very glossy, you go for they've got 3
The
options:
gold.
titanium
Yeah.
black, titanium silver, and titanium gold. They could have come up with some better names for these, but the gold is a lot more glossy, while the
Yeah.
silver and black are a little bit more matte. But with
Yeah.
the concavity, I feel like that's 2 points of contact that you might have occurring because they're that quote unquote protruding out a little bit more. Where my ring, my wedding ring, is a lot more rounded.
Punch in on you. No, bring it
I'll
in.
try. Yeah.
Let's
Here's
take
the
a
fun
look.
part: is there. But pretty much, come on, focus.
Back up a little bit. Right there.
There we go. No,
Right
okay.
there.
Anyways, it's rounded.
Yeah.
So, I get some wear and tear pretty much. I get most wear and tear in the middle, where on the edges I don't. Where for this, you're going to see a lot more wear and tear on the edges and not necessarily a lot in the middle. But with that, I think they did well with the amount of options and like sizes and colors. I think they did really well with whatever the thickness of this thing is. I still have to, of course, I'm going to withhold a lot of that judgment until I actually see it in person, whether it's at Best Buy or if I really want to go into it and try to check it out by buying one or whatever. I don't think I will, but I do like the optimization of what they chose to go with and what they decide to not offer, because I think there's still a lot to be given here, especially with a 7-day of battery life. I think
Yeah.
that's a great metric for a ring. And if you can go double that, that'd be awesome. But 7 days is good enough. That means Sunday you take a break with it, or Saturday you take a break, whatever day you want to take a break with your ring.
You take off your wedding band at any point throughout the day?
Not really, no. Only when it's really cold and I'm having to take the trash out, or I'm doing garden work or something like that. That's the only time I do it because I don't want to lose the ring. But otherwise, it pretty much stays on.
Yeah. I take mine off for it's a very this ring is a misleading ring. These are black sapphire stones that are in there, and I'm going to show you something. Right, those points of contact you were talking about, Mike. If you look right there and there, I am missing some stones. I have lost stones, and I lost them pretty early on when I bought this ring. There's one right there, one right there, and one somewhere. I got 3 stones that I'm missing. So, I guess it's not set. But the thing is, like, I didn't pay much for this ring, if I'm being completely honest. Black sapphire is not an expensive stone. So, but this is also I don't know if it's I don't think this is titanium. I think this is tungsten. I think. Yeah, it is. So, I take it off mainly because I was tired of smacking things with the ring when I take a shower and maybe soaps in my eyes or whatever, so I'm smacking things, and anything that makes contact with that center point of the ring, I'm losing. I've lost 3 stones so far. I'm like, oh, okay. So if that wasn't the case and there was no stones there, if that was just the regular ring itself, it might get scuffed. Titanium is not a it's scratchable. It's gonna get scratched. So, you accept that. But here's the thing. So I asked about, like, do you take your ring off, because we're talking from the point of view, I'm not gonna speak for you, Mike. I'm gonna speak for me. I'm talking from the point of view of buying a smart ring that would replace my wedding band ring, because this is just I spent like $100 on this thing. It's not really expensive. So like, I would do it out of having a utility, and I don't want to just have, rings on all my fingers. I would just keep one on my wedding band or my wedding finger and call it a day. But if I was to not have been a married man, or if I was like, maybe I'll just keep the ring, if I had it, put something on a different finger, my first thought is, I'm wearing the ring as an accessory the same way I wear my watch, or maybe sunglasses, or maybe if you have like a necklace or a bracelet or whatever. And when you accessorize, you behave with those accessories a little bit differently. And I've never used a smart ring. I don't know what technically could change. Will it count my steps? Will it, um, like, I guess what I'm actually trying to digest here is, what do I use my watch for? And what would the ring replace for it? I use the watch to tell time first and foremost. Secondly, I use the watch as an accessory piece.
Mm-hmm.
I always have pre-smartwatch. And third, I use the watch to get notifications. Those are my three most important ones. The ring, accessorize, okay. Doesn't tell the time, doesn't notify me on anything. So I would still want a smart ring, but what would I use that smart ring for? So
Sure.
that's my headspace. Like, would I really wear this thing? Am I just hyped on something new?
I think it's a nice passive way to track a lot of things like steps and heart rate and workouts, or if you really want to get into more of the medical stuff, blood oxygen and skin temperature or whatever else. But it pretty much is that set up once and that's it. You don't have to worry about it again, which I like. And especially with a 7-day, I guess, max or maybe average uh, battery life. That's not bad compared to something like this watch that I haven't powered up in a week or so. Haven't been wearing it, haven't been touching it. I don't miss it. Well, I tend to look at my wrist sometimes and the time's not there. But I guess I've kind of conditioned myself at this point to be like, okay, I don't really need a watch on my wrist, in which I do accessorize sometimes with some rings for fancy get-togethers or events or dinners. So I'm comfortable with wearing rings. They're not too much of an issue with me. So it could be a possibility for me in the future, but it's on the Samsung side. But that's why I'm excited is Samsung is kind of throwing the first major volley at Apple, saying, hey, look what we can do. I'm hoping that pretty much Apple follows suit or responds with something that is comparable and or much better, but also fits in the Apple ecosystem. Meanwhile,
I agree.
Randy's hiding behind a mic.
I agree. Since you're not here, Mike, I'm using a different mic.
You're just trying to hide from the I totally forget the name of that feature. Is it Stage Manager? No. It's
Center stage.
Center Stage.
I forgot to.
I don't even use that.
Yeah.
But with that, I think the second best thing that came out of this event was probably, in my opinion, the Galaxy Buds Pro. Only because even though that they seem like a carbon copy of what Apple has done, it pretty much confirms what is the most comfortable shape for ears. Because we tried Galaxy Beans, we tried the other Galaxy Buds, we tried many other different things, the Google Pixel Buds as well, and they're just not that comfortable or easy to finagle with. And Apple pretty much has shown from the beginning a stem is most likely the best way to go because you have some controllability on that stem and it's easy to take it out of your ear without having to dig into it.
Yeah. I much rather see something that looks like this instead of that white adaptation. It's such a blatant copy, and I don't really care if they copy or not, personally, but I do care of like having your individual this isn't a stealing of the idea. This is a copying of the idea. There is a difference. When you steal it, you make it yours. You own it. When you copy it, you're just store brand RC Cola instead of Coke or whatever. Like this feels not half baked, but it just feels. I got a funny feeling with these headphones that Samsung is now.
Well, the fact that they advertise it with super clear call or blade lights or canal type is a little, I don't know, a little bit of a reach.
I want to note something right there at the bottom: 24-bit, 96
kilohertz
with yes, the kilohertz with the ultra high quality audio. That is not lossless, ladies and gentlemen. That's not lossless. It's good.
Plus, it's above 96 kilohertz. It's around 100 kilohertz or something.
It's not
Is
real
there a specific
lossless.
definition?
This is not real lossless. This is your it's not bad. Hang on. It's not bad, but I have these settings in Logic when I export my files. And the defaults is set to that. And like it's good. Okay, so here's what I was about to start picking apart. What tech is inside these headphones that is like powering this? It can't just be Bluetooth. I don't think Bluetooth has the capability of doing like that type of audio fidelity. I don't know, but I wonder what's powering these headphones on the inside. That's more interesting. But because I didn't watch the keynote, so I don't know if they talked about what's inside it. But Bluetooth
It blew right past me. To be fair,
yeah.
I watched it and I don't even recall. But I believe 96 kilohertz is pretty good compared to what the was it the oh goodness, I'm forgetting that. I guess I'm having a conniption right now in my brain. But the
48.
Apple,
You have, I think it's 48 or it might be 20, I think it's 48.
I feel like it's 48 kilohertz.
I think it's 48.
So
The highest you can go is I think you double it again. No, you don't double it again. Not with 96. I think it's 100 and oh man, this is where I wish I could open up my
research.
Yeah, you could pull it up, but with the fidelity, I know because I see the option all the time. I actually bounce my tracks out.
192 kilohertz.
192. Oh, so it is okay. It is
Nearly double.
It's doubled. It's exactly doubled.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 192, and that is an option. That's an option you have. That's the highest that you can go. When you get that, if it promotes that, you're hearing things, man. You're like ooh, but there's a technological. Why am I stumbling on that word? Technical.
Cutting my bug.
I caught your bug. Technological. Jesus, I'm tired.
That's fine.
There's a technological. Now it's just wait. Hang on. Let me see if I can hear my voice when I take off the. There's a technological. Man, I'm tired.
That's fine. I'm enjoying this entertainment right now.
Technological. Technological. There's a technological.
There. That's enough.
There's a limitation. There's a limitation with wireless and playback and depending on what the technology is inside the headphones. Because Bluetooth has its limitations.
It's Bluetooth 7 or Bluetooth 10.
Wait, did you look that up, or are you just
no? I think we're on I think Bluetooth 5 has a lot of different capabilities that we're on right now that is able to. I looked it up, and you can do a lot of speaker sharing if they've got Bluetooth 5. You can connect a whole bunch of Bluetooth speakers together, no matter the brand. But I'm not too sure what's inside these things either. But
yeah,
I do like their unique design, even though that they are very similar to the AirPods. I remembered it. I do like the fact that there is some accent lighting along with some color coding as well, and an angled stem. So
what does that mean? The lighting and all that stuff that's happening. What are those indicators?
They just called them blade lights. I think what they have the opportunity for is either showing battery indication, or I don't know if you really, if it truly is. I don't think it is an RGB. It's probably just a white light. But being able to, if it was RGB, to put different colors on there, that'd be nice for showing that, oh, I'm in ANC mode. Or even, I guess you could do it with like shutting off certain pixels, but I'm not too sure if it's got more than one.
But the blue and red right there, what's the blue and red for?
Oh, that's just for indicating which one you have. Do you have the blue in your hand or the orange? If you have the blue, that's your left one. If you have the orange, that's your right one. It's a great way to indicate which one you have either in your hand or in your ear. So then that way you're not fumbling around with them trying to figure out, is this oriented the right way or the wrong way? That's what
Are you trolling me?
I'm not trolling you. I think that is exactly what they're for. It's for highlighting which one is which. Because even with, was it the AirPods third generation or whatever they were, the stem was really angled to where it was kind of hard to tell which one you were holding, whether it was a left or right ear AirPod. And so with being able to color code them, you know which one goes in what ear. Blue goes in left, orange goes in right.
I've never had this issue with my non-color coded.
You've never had the issue of, oops, I've got my headphones out. Maybe I cleaned them or
No,
they fell out of the case. And
because they literally go from here to the case, or from the case. The case is oriented where you take it out. It's just you just go. You know what I mean?
I get that when you're taking them out, but when you're putting them back in, and or you put them not in the case or not in your ear, when they're on the desk.
I've never had that happen.
That's your use case.
Yeah.
That's never happened. It's the same thing with Drew saying, I've never dropped my phone. People do drop their phones. It's just you don't put your AirPods on a desk or somewhere or in your pocket.
Not when I pay $179 for them. They're in my ear or they're in the case. I'm very paranoid about the money I spend.
Right, where these things are going to cost not double, but $250.
Whoa!
Where the regular, was it the Buds 3 or whatever, are $179.
What?
But still offer 96 kilohertz at 24-bit, I guess, which is the same as the Pros. I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between these things. Just
one costs more.
Some don't.
One's more expensive.
Open.
Well, let me ask you this: the regular ones, the open type, that means there's no ANC. Oh, there is right there, ANC, but there's no transparency.
No, not.
Is there transparency on the Pros?
Yes.
That's going to be interesting. I would love to see the review of that. Doesn't look like it.
EQ and ANC, adaptive EQ and so this one highlights adaptive noise control and siren detection. So that might be the transparency indicator, right? Because I remember in the event that for some reason they're like, and what if there's an ambulance? And then they just play an ambulance sound that just deafens the whole room with a sound of a siren. I thought people know what that sounds like, but pretty much the use case for that is highlighting, oh, there is an emergency vehicle, you should pay attention, rather than masking it out. So I believe the Buds 3 Pro do have that transparency where the regular Buds 3 don't.
Very well.
But they also are color coded, which is nice. And they kind of have that blade look to them as well. They just don't have the blade light. Anyways, I think those were the stars of the show, where, of course, Drew highlighted the watches in his most recent video that look just like Apple Watches pretty much. That actually, well, I guess the Watch Ultra looks like the Apple Watch Ultra, both in band design and in chassis design. Yet it still keeps the circular watch face and got rid of the face dial. Now it's only the crown on the side.
I'm so confused about what's happening here. That this looks like a future version of what the Apple Watch Ultra is going to look like, and they just got there first.
Apple's going to go round soon instead of their squircle look.
But they didn't even fully commit to round, because look at those corners. Those corners got thick bezels.
It's a whole cliff.
Man. Good for them. I mean, look, to be honest with you, for the Samsung Galaxy ecosystem, good for them. I like that green.
I think the Watch 7 looks great.
That looks sick. I like that green.
Yeah.
Surprise, ladies and gentlemen. As I wear my green Series 7, I wait for another green. No, honestly, man, All of it's cool. I don't care if they copy. I don't care if they steal. I don't care. Period. I care about having a thriving ecosystem for really any ecosystem you choose to set up camp in. I like the style of their little sportsy because those look like not Germans. That those watches right there. They look exactly like oh, I'm spacing on the name. I'm on the spot. But there's a retro design about that design right there with those watches that I'm like, cool. The part that's modern is the screen technology. So that's sick. That's cool. Fine.
I like how matte and flat it looks. In
Yeah.
which probably in IRL it doesn't.
Oh, I
But
hope you're wrong. I hope it is.
I agree. Because it looks
Yeah.
very I mean, maybe it's the colors of blue and orange that are ticking my favoritism towards it because I played Portal and Portal 2, and those are pretty much the main Portal
Yeah.
colors that you use to go through. And a lot of that's very futuristic, and a lot of things are either glossy or matte and all that. And so maybe that video game-esque futurism is what's making me vibe with this design for the Galaxy Watch 7. But I'm not too sure if it actually looks like that in person with the matte look and very just almost maybe not e-ink, just vibrant and flat at the same time. It's probably the way that I describe
you just
it.
contradicted yourself.
Well, no, there's glossy and matte, vibrant and flat. I don't know. It looks.
But I get what you're saying because from that angle, the especially the green watch one, that display looks matte. It looks like it has that nano textured whatever that people hype on about, and the watch band itself also looks like it fits that. I don't even know if that's stainless steel or aluminum on the side, but likewise, it all has the same texture.
Aluminum.
Oh, it's aluminum. There you go. Sapphire glass. Oh, nice. They got sapphire glass on it. Dude, I wish the Apple Watch had sapphire glass on the aluminum, cheaper model one. The only reason why I don't think I'll buy another base model is because this non-sapphire glass, it scuffs so easily. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, whatever. That I don't complain about wear and tear. But is that you have a stainless steel?
No, I've got the regular aluminum with I think whatever.
You got scratches? You got love scratches on it too?
There's way too many scratches on it.
Seriously,
which I noticed every single time I boot it up.
And when I know exactly what you mean. When I was running with the Apple Watch Ultra for a couple months, a few years back, I was accidentally beating the heck out of that thing, and that thing came out brand new still. I was like, dang, you can't. Sapphire glass is legit, so I'm good for them. The folds and the flips. I'll tell you that I'm gonna scoff at these because evidently they're now more expensive and they don't really have anything proprietary new unless we're going to talk about software locking things as well. I did see that about this whole really emphasis on AI, but that doesn't merit $100 more. I think they just increasing the pricing for it, but
you don't want AI Sydney Sweeney.
Jeez.
That just looks like a generic white girl.
That looks like a Barbie toy. That looks so plastic.
Or do you want something that's pretty much the Eiffel Tower? I don't know what this use case was. It was, what if I was looking at the stars and I made my own constellation and then said it was the Eiffel Tower, but then I drew the Eiffel Tower and then I used the generator for AI button to put me in with the photo, but then I also wanted to have it in Paris with a boat in front of it. It was a really weird, convoluted way of shoving AI into you enjoying the stars.
Ill.
In which I think this was all in the purpose of, the Olympics are coming up and we're holding this event in Paris.
Yeah, I heard people aren't really buying tickets for the Olympics. Hey, did they show what the final version of that rendering right there was about to look like?
I think I got it right here.
But humor me.
Pretty much it started like something around that.
All right.
And then turned into...
He's showing an ad of a guy looking at the night sky.
Yeah, so it's pretty much... I'm showing some of the Samsung stuff, but like here's a crude drawing of it. And then here's what it could look like with AI and all that. I want to draw a boat right here and have AI make the
I
boat.
can't draw a boat like that. Okay, hang
I
on.
like that you can kind of sketch where the boat goes, but AI
Wait,
generated.
so question. This photo that Mike is showing a photo of the Eiffel Tower on the and it's from the point of view of somebody looking on the water. Is this photo a photo or is this a generated photo?
I believe the Eiffel Tower and the river, is that the Thames or no, I think that's England. Anyways, everything else is real. The boat is the AI generated content.
Okay.
So you can draw in whatever thing you want. But it was
that looks like the
there.
playground.
That's the AI generated Eiffel Tower or whatever that they made.
This looks like the WWDC keynote we just had with those AI things. Man, all right. Okay.
I don't know. I think
good.
the fold and the flip, I haven't paid attention to them. I don't know if they had their second and third lenses on them last year or not. But the fact
flip
that
did.
okay, but the fact that they're adding a little bit more functionality to the front screen on it, or I guess back screen. I don't know what you want to call this thing. I think I've got
That's the closed screen.
The closed screen, but being able to interact with it a little bit more, have it, I think, interact with different cases that have LEDs on them that you could slap on your flip.
Okay.
Is neat. But pretty much just having it do a lot more things, I think, is a great idea for the flip phone. And Drew kind of put it decently well. Is like the product's maturing, which is great because it means that there's going to be a lot more utility focused intent tools coming to it rather than a little bit more like gimmicky tools.
Mm-hmm.
But it is getting to that age of incremental updates, which is going to be inevitable for the product. I'm just interested in seeing how they justify $100 for.
I just wanted them to fix the folding technology because there's still going to be a crease. Like that's the part I cared about. I don't care about
what
all
they
this.
highlighted in the event is that they're using some fluid now that is between the screen and the rest of the device that allows for a lot more durability for it. So I believe if they weren't using that before and they were just highlighting in this, or maybe they are, I don't know whether it's new technology or old technology that they were highlighting in this event, but they at least mentioned that oh goodness, I think I've got it on my notes right here, but no, I didn't mention it, but they have a vapor chamber in it now for thermal efficiency.
I don't even know what that means. I thought you were talking about vaping or something right now.
No, vapor chamber for being able to eject vapor and or hot air, pretty much.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, I think it was a decent event. It was a little bit disjointed. The AI stuff was a little bit jarring and ridiculous. But I think they had at least 2 solid products in here where the others were a little lackluster. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad Galaxy Unpacked, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. I don't mean to shrug off like I don't care. I shrug in the sense it's like I'm just glad they got themselves a thriving ecosystem because that the startups today that try to make these ecosystems, I think I'm still jaded about like the AI pin and the Rabbit R1 stuff. That's like this is trash. That it makes me happy when I see Sam. Like for me, I think of Samsung, Google, and Apple as being the like, hey, these guys got thriving ecosystems. I know the Nothing Phone company, whatever, like those guys are trying with this modularity of this phone or something, but like admittedly, like it's gimmicky to me. There's no utility I am seeing that isn't already like amplified or perfected on through one of these other actual established ecosystems through MagSafe or whatever. Like not OnePlus, Nothing Phone nothing company is very, very like standouty niche. Like the I have an issue with companies that try to be so unique that eventually they're going to inevitably lose their uniqueness. It's just you die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain, and nothing will be one or the others, because according to them, a company like Apple might be the villain because they're the establishment of it. Did I freeze? I did. That was weird. I know why I froze.
Right up to the iPad.
No, I it was me trying to pair this, and so
I know you're pretty choppy right now.
I know because I'm fidgeting. I'm fidgeting here.
You're fidgeting.
Yeah.
Anyways, before anything else goes wrong, do you have any final thoughts, Randy, before either the iPad says enough is enough or something else goes on?
iPad's running fine. Everything else.
Okay.
Now, do you have any final questions for me about the iPad that I didn't bring up?
I think my only question. No, I think you satisfied all my questions. Besides having 3 generations of iPads in your house is a bit much. And did you get? I guess the other question I have. I don't know if I noticed it in one of your videos. Did you get a new case for it or folio, or you're just sticking it into what you already have?
And the reason why I got the model that I got, the version I got, was because I was not getting any accessories or anything like that. I just strictly the iPad. So nothing's new except everything's new except this very device that I'm talking to you on. But that goes to say something though. Like it's about the. I don't think Apple calls it the motherboard. I think they call it something else. The logic board.
Fatherboard.
Like it's all about like everything that accompanies that is what's important. Running the audio, having my light on, having stable connection, not fidgeting with my AirPods case so that way it froze the screen, nothing like that. All that
Sounds
stuff
like a design flaw.
Yeah. Well, mouse and keyboard.
I could do the same with mine right now. It does nothing.
You don't know that. Go ahead. Open up the case. No, I was opening the lid.
Oh, I ain't doing that.
That's what I was doing. I was messing with the lid. So
chalk it up to user error then.
Sure, why not? I'm at fault. I'm just as at fault as Drew is for driving his Model 3 on FSD.
Yes, he is. And with that, we'll catch you guys next week. If you want to learn more about what happened with Drew stuff, if you're not even up to date on that, go check out the other podcast or check out his channel. You can find us on X.
Go on Twitter and see the bombarding of hate. Jeez.
Yeah, the whole community with torches on him. Or you can look at all the nice stuff going on Randy's side of things on X or Twitter or whatever. With me, I don't really post on that anymore, but give me a follow.
You're a better person.
Yeah, I'm phasing out. I'll talk about that next week. The phasing out of social media on my end. It's been interesting.
Same, Mike. Same, but we'll talk about that later.
Yep. With that, thanks for joining us this week. We'll catch you next week. Take care.
Goodbye.